The war is over. The great houses have bent the knee. Alpha King Torvin of Valdro sits upon a throne, built from the swords of his enemies, and no one dares meet his gaze. But for nearly a year now, the king has not slept. He paces the halls at night like something hunted. He sends riders to every corner of the realm. He empties the treasury on scouts and spies, and whispered questions in taverns no king should know exist. He is searching. Her name was Syra, a nobody. A refugee from the war-torn East, with nothing but a sick child in her arms and desperation in her eyes. One amber, one winter sky blue. She came to his castle seeking sanctuary, and she was given the lowest room, a converted storage cellar beneath the servants' quarters, where rats nested in the walls and cold seeped through stone. An insult so deliberate it could only have been calculated. She did not complain. She did not beg. She simply looked at the room and said nothing at all. By dawn, she was gone. No trace, no word. She vanished like smoke through a crack in the world, and she took the child with her. The Alpha King has conquered nations. He has broken armies with his bare hands. His name makes grown men weep and warriors kneel. So why has he spent a year searching for one woman he humiliated? Why does the most feared ruler in the realm wake screaming her name? And what did she see that night that made her run? The castle gates were larger than any building in Ardenmoor. Syra tilted her head back, staring at the iron spikes crowning them like black thorns against the gray sky. Her arms ached. Bram had fallen asleep against her shoulder 3 miles back, heavier than he looked, all bones and fever heat burning through his threadbare coat. She adjusted her grip carefully. He murmured something, then stilled. Behind her, the line of refugees stretched toward the horizon. Hundreds, maybe thousands, all fleeing the eastern territories where war had left nothing but ash and unmarked graves. Syra had been walking for 19 days. Her boots had worn through on day 6. The cloth strips wrapped around her feet were black with dried blood. None of that mattered. Getting Bram inside the castle walls was everything. A guard approached, eyes moving over her with cold assessment, ragged dress, unwashed hair, a child who looked more dead than alive. Name and purpose, he said flatly, Syra of Ardenmoor. She kept her voice steady. Seeking sanctuary for myself and my brother. He needs a healer. The guard glanced at Bram's gray-tinged face. Healers are occupied. War-wounded take priority. He is 7 years old. The guard shrugged. Take it up with the chamberlain. Through the gates, left corridor. Ask for Lady Drusilla. Syra walked through before he could change his mind. The courtyard was chaos. Soldiers in tight formations. Servants rushing with arms full of linens. The smell hit her next. Blood, smoke, and the metallic tang of fear. She found Lady Drusilla behind an arched doorway hung with purple curtains. The woman was beautiful in the way a blade was beautiful. Silver hair swept back from precise, elegant features. Pale green eyes moved over Syra with slow, calculating assessment. Another refugee. State your skills. I can read, write, and work numbers. Kitchens, laundry, stables, whatever is needed. I only ask for lodging and a healer for my brother. Lady Drusilla's gaze dropped to Bram. The child is dying. He has a fever. It can be treated. Perhaps. Lady Drusilla made a note. Skills in literacy are useful. You will work in the records hall. As for lodging, she paused. We are quite full. The lower quarters will have to do. Anything. Thank you. Lady Drusilla smiled without warmth. A servant led Syra down, and further down. The stairs grew narrower, torches grew sparse, air thickened with damp and mildew. When they reached the door, Syra understood. This was not lodging, this was punishment. The room was a cellar. Stone walls sweating with moisture. A single straw pallet older than the castle itself. No window, no hearth. Cold so absolute it felt alive. The servant fled without meeting her eyes. Sira stood in the doorway and felt something inside her go quiet. 19 days of walking for this, carrying her dying brother through mud and rain for this, a room where rats lived better than refugees. She laid Bram on the pallet, tucking her coat around him. His forehead burned under her palm. She needed medicine, a healer, something other than this damp hole where her brother would die before morning. She would find the healer herself. The corridor was empty. She moved quickly, silently, the way she had learned during the war when soldiers came through Ardenmoor and you either hid or died. Up the stairs, through servants' passages, past golden light and murmured voices. She kept climbing until walls were hung with tapestries instead of mold. And then she heard it. A voice. Low. Urgent. Behind a door left slightly ajar. The bloodspain is working perfectly. Lady Drusilla's voice. He suspects nothing. By winter his episodes will be severe enough that the council will declare him unfit. Then the crown passes to regency, and we both know who controls the council. A muffled reply. Lady Drusilla laughed softly. The great Alpha King Torvin, brought low by a poison he cannot scent. Poetic, is it not? Kira stopped breathing. The king was being poisoned. Lady Drusilla was behind it. And Sira had just heard everything. She ran. Back through the passages, heart slamming against her ribs. She gathered Bram in her arms, coat and all. We have to go, she whispered against his hair. But the healer, Bram mumbled. There is no healer for us here. She slipped out through a servant's gate before dawn touched the sky. By morning she was gone. The king knew something was wrong before he opened his eyes. The air smelled different. Fear and desperation and something sweeter beneath it. Something that made his wolf stir in ways he did not understand. He had smelled it yesterday. In the courtyard, briefly. A woman with a child in her arms. Strange eyes. One amber, one pale blue. Quiet dignity despite the rags. Then she was gone, swallowed by chaos. Now her scent was here, in the upper corridors, where refugees never went. Torvin followed it. The trail led through servants' passages, down into depths where air grew cold and damp. He stopped at a doorway he had never seen before. The room beyond was a cellar, sweating stone walls, a disturbed straw pallet. And her scent, everywhere, mixed with the smaller, sicker scent of a child. The king stood in the doorway and felt something crack inside his chest. This was where she had been placed. This hole. This insult. He walked back up the stairs. His stride lengthened. His jaw tightened. Servants pressed themselves against walls to let him pass. Lady Drusilla, he said. His aunt looked up with a pleasant smile. Good morning, nephew. The refugee woman, the one with the child. Where is she? Irritation flickered across Lady Drusilla's face, quickly suppressed. Which refugee? She had unusual eyes. One amber, one blue. A boy child. 7. Very ill. Lady Drusilla consulted her records. Ah, Sira of Ardenmoor, assigned to the lower quarters. The lower quarters, Torvin repeated flatly. We are quite full. Sacrifices must be made. That room is not fit for storage, let alone a woman and sick child. Lady Drusilla's smile did not waver. An oversight. I will have her moved immediately. It was past midday when the summons came. Lord Commander Halric appeared at the council chamber, face pale. The woman you asked about. She is gone. Left before dawn. No trace. The king went still. Search the grounds, he said. Your Majesty, she is a refugee. Search. The grounds. The search found nothing. She had slipped through a servant's gate. No guard had seen her. No one knew which direction she had gone. Torvin stood at the gate, staring at the muddy road, and felt his wolf howl inside his chest. It made no sense. He had seen her for 3 heartbeats in a crowded courtyard. She was nothing to him. And yet... "Find her," he said quietly. Halric stepped forward. "Your Majesty." Torvin turned. His eyes had gone dark, more wolf than man. "I do not care what it costs. Send riders to every village between here and the eastern border. Find her. And if she does not wish to be found, then find out why she ran. Because something made that woman flee with a dying child in her arms, and I intend to learn what it was." Behind him, Lady Drusilla watched from a window with pale, calculating eyes. Her lips curved into a smile, then faded. She reached for a quill and began to write. 11 months later. The village of Thornwick clung to the edge of the world like a barnacle on a ship's hull. It was the kind of place people came to disappear. No main roads, no trade routes. Just stone cottages huddled against the mountains, surrounded by forest so thick the sun barely touched the ground. Syra had found it 6 days after fleeing, half dead from exhaustion, Bram burning with fever. A widow named Sorrel had taken them in without questions. The fever broke on the 3rd night. Bram lived. Syra wept with relief and got to work. Now she stood in Sorrel's herb garden, pulling weeds, while Bram chased a chicken around the yard. "Syra," Bram called. "Watch this." He lunged for the chicken, missed spectacularly, and landed face first in a mud puddle. The chicken clucked with contempt and waddled away. Bram sat up, mud dripping from his nose, and grinned. Syra laughed. "Very impressive. A warrior in the making." "Do you think I could be a warrior? A real one? I think you can be anything you want, even an alpha?" Gira's hand stilled. It was an innocent question. Bram was too young during the war to understand what he was, what it meant that his eyes sometimes flashed gold, what it meant that their village had been targeted and burned with their parents inside. "You do not want to be an alpha," she said quietly. "Trust me." "Why not?" "Because alphas have enemies." She pulled him close. "I would rather you be safe than powerful." She had built something here. A small life. A fragile peace. But she never forgot what she had heard that night. Lady Drusilla's voice. "The Bloodsbane is working perfectly." The Alpha King was being poisoned by his own aunt. By now, his episodes were probably severe enough to concern the council. It was not her concern. She had told herself that 1,000 times. And yet, she thought about those 3 heartbeats in the courtyard. He had looked tired, like a man carrying something too heavy to set down. She should hate him. His armies had burned Ardenmoor. His war had orphaned her and Bram. But she could not make herself feel nothing about a man being slowly murdered by someone he trusted. Gira. Sorrel stood in the doorway, face pale. Riders, from the east. Gira's blood went cold. She caught Bram mid-chase and swung him onto her hip. "The hiding game," she said. "The cellar with the turnips. Do not come out until I come for you." Bram's eyes went wide. He understood. "I promise," he whispered and ran. The riders appeared moments later. 3 of them. Castle horses, castle armor, castle crests. One dismounted, spoke to the village elder. The elder pointed directly at her. Syra did not run. The rider approached. Young. Professional. "Syra of Ardenmoor? Who is asking?" He withdrew a parchment with the wolf seal of House Valdros. "Alpha King Torvin. By order of the crown, you are summoned to Silvervein Keep regarding your departure 11 months ago." He had searched for her. For 11 months. "And if I refuse?" "The order does not include that word." Syra thought about Lady Drusilla, about poison, about a king running out of time. "Very well," she said. "I will come." But she made herself a promise. She would tell him what she knew. She would save his life if she could. And then she would disappear again, because some debts could not be forgiven. The riders turned east, and Sira rode toward the king who had given her the lowest room, the king who had searched for a year, the king whose enemies were closer than he knew. Behind her, a 7-year-old boy with wolf blood in his veins waited in the dark and prayed his sister would return. The message arrived at dusk. Torvin was standing in his war chamber when Halric entered, parchment in hand, something urgent in his expression. "We found her," Halric said. "The riders are bringing her to Silvervein Keep." She agreed to come. Torvin turned from the window. For a moment he could not speak. 11 months of searching. 11 months of sleepless nights and obsessive planning and the gnawing certainty that he had failed before he even began. And now she was coming here. When? He managed. 3 days. Perhaps 4. Depending on the weather. Torvin nodded, dismissed Halric with a gesture. Then he stood alone in the chamber and tried to understand what he was feeling. Relief. That was part of it. But beneath that, something more complicated. Fear, perhaps. Or anticipation. Or the strange hollow ache that had lived in his chest since the morning he discovered she was gone. He walked to the table where the map still lay, pins marking every village his riders had searched. He had stared at this map so many times he could see it when he closed his eyes. Every pin a failure. Every blank space a reminder that she had slipped through his fingers. "Why did you run, Sira of Ardenmoor?" The question had consumed him. In the beginning, he had told himself it was merely curiosity. A king should know what happened in his own castle. A woman had fled in the night, and he deserved to know why. But that explanation had worn thin long ago. The truth was simpler and more terrifying. He had seen her for 3 heartbeats in a crowded courtyard, and something inside him had recognized her. Not her face, not her name. Something deeper. Something his wolf understood even when his human mind could not. She mattered. He did not know why. He only knew that when she vanished, some essential piece of himself had vanished with her. And then, there were the episodes. Torvin looked at his hands. They were steady now, but they had not always been. The episodes came without warning. A sudden surge of violence, blinding and absolute. He would lose minutes, sometimes hours, and wake to find destruction around him. Broken furniture, terrified servants. Once, blood on his knuckles and no memory of how it got there. His mother had suffered the same affliction. That was what Lady Drusilla had told him, a weakness of the bloodline, a flaw that could not be cured, only managed. He had believed her. For years he had believed that he was fundamentally broken, that the violence inside him was his own, a monster he carried in his bones. But lately, doubts had begun to creep in. The episodes had worsened over the past year. They came more frequently now, lasted longer, and left him weaker in their aftermath. The council had noticed. He had seen the whispers, the sidelong glances, the carefully neutral expressions that meant they were discussing him when he was not present. "Some say madness," Halric had warned. Torvin was not mad. He knew that with bone-deep certainty. But something was wrong. Something was very wrong. And somehow it had all started around the time Sira fled. He thought about the cellar, the room where she had been placed. Lady Drusilla had called it an oversight, but Torvin had seen the guest ledgers. Every refugee was assigned lodging based on skills, health, and family status. There was a system, a process. Sira of Ardenmoor, literate and capable, with a sick child in her arms, had been placed in the lowest room in the castle. That was not an oversight. That was a choice. But why? What threat could a refugee woman pose to Lady Drusilla? What possible reason could his aunt have for wanting her gone? Torvin did not know. But in 3 days, Sira would be here, and he intended to find out. He looked out the window at the darkening sky. Somewhere out there, riding toward him through the winter cold, was the woman who had haunted his thoughts for nearly a year. He would have answers. He would understand why she ran. And perhaps, in understanding her, he might finally understand himself. The journey took 4 days. On the 4th day, the castle appeared. Larger than she remembered. Dark stone walls against winter sky. The wolf banners snapping in the wind. The riders led her through the courtyard, past staring servants and straightening guards. Word was spreading. The woman the king has been searching for. She is here. The great hall was exactly as imposing as expected. Vaulted ceilings, massive hearths, a throne carved from black stone. And on that throne sat Alpha King Torvin. He looked different. The weariness remained. But there was something sharper now. Hungrier. His gaze tracked her across the hall like a physical weight. She stopped at the base of the dais and did not kneel. Murmurs rippled through the courtiers. Torvin's mouth twitched. Not quite a smile. Syra of Ardenmoor, you have been difficult to find. Perhaps I did not wish to be found, Your Majesty. Leave us, he said. The hall emptied. Torvin descended the dais with controlled grace. He stopped 3 feet from her. You ran. In the middle of the night, with a sick child, in winter. Why? Because the room I was given made clear how little my life was worth here. Pain crossed his face. That room was not my doing. It was your castle, your responsibility. You are correct. The words came slowly. I should have ensured every refugee was treated with dignity. I failed. She had not prepared for accountability. You searched for me for a year. Why? I do not know. Torvin's voice dropped. I only know that when you were gone, something inside me refused to accept it. I know something, she said. Something you need to hear. About threats closer than you know. The doors burst open. Lady Drusilla swept in, silver hair gleaming. Behind her came guards, advisors, the full weight of the court. Nephew, I heard we had a guest. She turned to Syra. The little refugee. How delightful. Cold slid down Syra's spine. Lady Drusilla knew. Why else interrupt? This woman fled in the night, Lady Drusilla continued smoothly. Surely there must be questions about her intentions. She is a refugee, not a spy, Torvin said. Is she? Lady Drusilla tilted her head. Some might say she has something to hide. The trap was closing. Syra could feel it. If she accused Lady Drusilla now, it would be her word against the king's aunt. A refugee against a noblewoman. She would lose. Syra met Lady Drusilla's eyes. You are right, she said. There is much you do not know about me. I have information the king needs, about threats closer than he knows. Lady Drusilla paled. Torvin stepped forward. What information? Syra opened her mouth. And then the pain hit, searing agony in her skull, driving her to her knees. She caught a glimpse of Lady Drusilla's hand dropping from the jeweled ring she wore, something faintly glowing fading from its surface. Then darkness. The last thing she heard was Torvin's voice, raw with fear. Syra. She woke on the 3rd day. Torvin had not left her side. He had ignored council meetings, border disputes, Lady Drusilla's pointed suggestions about neglecting duties. He sat beside her bed, counting her breaths like precious coins. The healers found nothing wrong. They murmured about stress, exhaustion. Torvin did not believe them. He had seen Lady Drusilla touch her ring when Syra collapsed. Satisfaction, not shock, on his aunt's face. On the 3rd morning, her eyes opened. You stayed, she said. Yes. Why? Because I needed to know you were all right. Your aunt. She pushed herself up. Lady Drusilla. She is poisoning you. Torvin went still. The night I fled, I heard her. She called it Bloodsbane. She said your episodes would worsen until the council declared you unfit. The words landed like physical blows. All these years. All these episodes he had believed were a fundamental flaw in his nature, a broken thing inside him. And it had been her, his aunt, the woman who raised him. Why would she do this? Power. If the council declares you unfit, they appoint regency. And who controls the council? Lady Drusilla. Torvin closed his eyes. For a long moment, silence. Then he rose. Where are you going? To confront her. No. Sira caught his wrist. Not yet. She has allies, resources. If you confront her before you have proof, she will destroy you. Or me. Then what do you suggest? We find proof. We identify the poison, trace its source. We build a case so solid the council cannot ignore it. And then, she paused, we bring her down together. Together. Torvin looked at this woman who had every reason to hate him. Why would you do this for me? Because my brother is alive, because I fled that night. Because when I looked at you in that courtyard, I did not see a monster. I saw someone carrying too much alone. She paused. I know what that feels like. I will have you moved. Near my chambers, where I can ensure your safety. People will talk. Let them. He met her gaze. You saved my life. The least I can do is protect yours. I have conditions, she said. First, stop taking whatever she gives you. Find another source for food and drink. Done. Second, bring my brother here. He is 7 and alone. I will send riders today. Third, her eyes held his. Tell me the truth. About Ardenmoor. About why my parents died. The question hit him like a blow. The Eastern Territories were targeted because of their wolf bloodlines, he said quietly. Reports of a new alpha emerging. The generals advised elimination. I gave the order. Silence. My brother is the alpha you feared. He does not know it yet, but his eyes flash gold. He survived a fever that should have killed him. Torvin felt the blood drain from his face. And you brought him here, Sira continued, to the castle of the man who ordered his family's death, because you searched for me, and I decided to trust that the man who searched was not the same as the man who gave that order. She held his gaze. Was I wrong? Torvin thought about the boy. 7 years old, the very threat his generals had warned about. He thought about Lady Drusilla, how she had made him into a weapon, poisoned and manipulated him. He would not do the same to a child. No, he said. You were not wrong. I am not that man anymore. Sira studied him. Then we have work to do. Call me Torvin, he said. If we are going to bring down my aunt together, we should be on a first-name basis. For the first time, Sira laughed. Small, startled, quickly suppressed. But it transformed her face entirely. Torvin decided he would do whatever it took to hear that sound again. Bram arrived on a gray morning, 3 days after Sira had woken. She stood at the castle gates, heart pounding. Torvin stood beside her, a steady presence she had not asked for but had come to rely upon. The riders stopped. One lifted a small figure down. Bram. He looked taller. Brown curls across his forehead, eyes bright and searching. Sira. He ran. She dropped to her knees and caught him. You came back, he whispered. You promised and you did. I will always come back. Is that the king? Bram asked, looking past her. Yes. Bram pulled free and walked directly up to Torvin. My sister says you searched for her for a whole year. Torvin crouched to his level. I have. Why? Because she mattered. Even before I understood why. Bram nodded, satisfied. I am Bram. I am 7. I like chickens, and I am going to be a warrior someday. It is an honor to meet you, Bram. Bram smiled, bright and trusting. Sira felt her throat tighten. In the days that followed, Sira and Torvin worked together to trace the poison. They discovered Lady Drusilla served a particular wine at every meal. Torvin stopped drinking it, and his episodes began to ease. But Lady Drusilla was watching. Kira felt her gaze everywhere. One evening, a week after Bram's arrival, Kira found herself alone with Torvin in the library. The fire had burned low. Snow fell outside. "You are worried," Torvin said. "I am always worried. It is how I survive. Tell me. I am afraid I have put Bram in more danger than ever before." Torvin took her hand. "I cannot promise safety," he said, "but I can promise this. I will protect your brother with my life, not because of what he is, because of who you are. Why do you care so much?" His thumb traced her knuckles. "When I saw you in that courtyard, I recognized you. Like finding a piece of myself I did not know was missing." "You are not a monster," she said quietly. "How do you know?" "Because monsters do not kneel to speak to children. Because monsters do not search for a year. Because monsters do not look at me the way you do." "How do I look at you?" "Like I matter." He cupped her face. "You do matter. More than anything." He kissed her. Soft at first, then deeper when she responded, her fingers curling into his shirt. When they pulled apart, she was trembling. "This is dangerous. Everything worth having is dangerous." The door burst open. A servant, white with terror. "The boy has been taken." The world went red. Torvin was out of the library before the servant finished, his wolf rising so fast he felt bones beginning to shift. He forced himself human. "Where?" he snarled. "The East Tower." Lady Drusilla said she needed to speak with him. Lady Drusilla's private chambers. He took the stairs 3 at a time, Kira close behind. The tower door was barred. Torvin slammed his shoulder into it with the full force of his wolf. The door shattered. Lady Drusilla stood at the center, dressed for travel. Behind her, 2 guards held Bram, a knife at his throat. Bram's eyes were wide, but not crying. "The Alpha King arrives," Lady Drusilla said. "Predictable. Let him go." "No. This is between us." "On the contrary." Lady Drusilla smiled. "He is the last Alpha of the Eastern bloodlines, the threat you failed to eliminate. What will the Council say when they learn you have been harboring the enemy?" "He is 7 years old," Syra said. "Children grow up." Lady Drusilla's gaze moved to Syra. "You were supposed to die in that cellar, but you survived. And my fool nephew spent a year searching, neglecting everything." She looked at Torvin with contempt. "You have always been weak. I raised you to be a weapon, and instead, you became something else entirely." "You poisoned me," Torvin said. "Made me believe I was broken. You are broken. The poison simply made it visible." "Here is what happens," Lady Drusilla continued. "You let me leave with the boy. In exchange, I do not tell the Council you have been harboring an enemy Alpha." "No," Torvin said. "Then the boy dies." "Take me instead," Torvin said. Lady Drusilla blinked. "I am the one you want to control. Take me, let them go." "Torvin," Syra said sharply, "it is the only way." Lady Drusilla considered. "Very well, come here." Torvin stepped forward, and Bram moved. It happened in a heartbeat. He twisted free, dropping low, slipping through the guard's grip. The knife sliced air, and Bram's eyes went full gold. The shift was explosive, light and power. A small silver wolf stood where a boy had been. The guards stumbled back, faces white. Lady Drusilla's composure cracked. "Impossible. He is too young." Torvin shifted. For the first time in his life, it did not hurt. It felt like being free. He launched at Lady Drusilla. His jaws closed around her arm, forcing her down. Loyal guards poured in. "Seize her," Syra commanded. They did. "You will regret this," Lady Drusilla hissed. "You cannot rule without me." Torvin shifted back. "No," he said quietly. "I am finally something without you." The guards took her away. The trial lasted 3 days. The evidence was overwhelming. Documents tracing years of poison purchases, witnesses who had seen Lady Drusilla meeting with council members in secret. The castle alchemist, who had been coerced into producing the Bloodsbane and who confessed everything in exchange for mercy. Lady Drusilla denied nothing. She sat in the great hall, chains around her wrists, and spoke of necessity, of strength, of the weakness that mercy bred in kings. "Mercy is not weakness," Torvin had replied from his throne. "Mercy is a choice, and I choose it." The council sentenced her to life imprisonment in the northern fortress. Cold stone walls and endless winter until the end of her days. Sira watched the guards lead her away and felt nothing but quiet emptiness where fear had been. Bram stood beside her, hand in hers. He had not fully recovered from the shift. The healers said it would take time, but he was alive. He was safe. That was everything. Sira. Torvin approached, still in formal robes, tired but lighter than she had ever seen him. "Walk with me," he said. They walked through the castle gardens. Bram ran ahead to investigate a frozen fountain, his energy returning day by day. "What happens now?" Sira asked. "Now I rebuild," Torvin said. "My council, my household, my kingdom. Everything has been shaped by her influence. It will take time to undo the damage." "And us?" He stopped walking, turned to face her, took her hands in his. "I have spent a year searching for you," he said. "I have spent weeks fighting beside you. I have spent every moment since that night in the library trying to understand what I feel." He paused, his voice roughening. "And I know now. I love you." Kira's heart stuttered. "I do not deserve you," Torvin continued. "My war killed your parents. My order destroyed your village. I gave you every reason to hate me, and instead, you came back. You warned me. You saved my life. You trusted me with your brother." "I did not do it for you," Sira said. "I did it because it was right." "I know." He smiled, small and real. "That is why I love you. Because you do what is right even when it costs you. Because you carried your brother through 19 days of hell and never stopped fighting. Because you looked at me and saw something worth saving when I could not see it myself." "Torvin, I am not asking you to forget the past," he said. "I am not asking you to forgive what cannot be forgiven. I am only asking for a chance. To prove that I can be the man you believed I could be. To earn your trust. To build something new." Sira looked at him. This scarred, tired, complicated man who had searched for her for a year, who had knelt in frozen mud to speak to her brother, who had offered his life for a child he barely knew. "I cannot promise forgiveness," she said slowly. "Not yet. Some wounds take longer to heal." Torvin nodded, accepting. "But I will stay," she said. "I will let you try. And I will be here while you rebuild." Hope broke across his face, bright and unguarded. "May I kiss you?" he asked. "You may." He cupped her face gently and kissed her, soft and slow and full of promise. Behind them, Bram made a loud gagging sound. "Disgusting," he announced. "Are you going to do that all the time now?" Torvin pulled back, grinning. "Probably." Bram considered this. "Fine, but I get more chicken duties." "Agreed." Bram nodded, satisfied, and went back to the fountain. Sira leaned into Torvin's side. He wrapped an arm around her shoulders. The snow began to fall. 6 months later. The great hall blazed with candlelight. Hundreds of faces watched as the Alpha King entered with a woman no one had expected. A refugee. A survivor. The woman who had saved the king's life. They walked together down the center aisle, hand in hand. Bram waited at the front, formal clothes already dirt-stained. When he saw Sira, his grin threatened to consume his entire face. He had grown in the past 6 months. Taller, stronger, more confident. The silver wolf inside him was settling, learning, becoming part of who he was, rather than something to fear. Torvin had been training him, patiently, carefully, teaching him control the way no one had ever taught Torvin himself. Sira smiled at her brother, and he beamed back. 1 year ago, Torvin said, his voice carrying through the silent hall, a woman came to this castle seeking sanctuary. She was given the lowest room, an insult. A cruelty I did not know about until she was already gone. She fled, and I spent a year searching for her. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. She saved my life. She exposed a conspiracy that would have destroyed this kingdom. And she did it not for power, not for reward, but because it was right. He turned to face her fully, taking both her hands in his. I was lost before I found her, broken in ways I did not understand. She showed me the truth, and in doing so, she gave me back myself. He paused and his voice softened. Today I ask her to stand beside me, not as a refugee, not as a guest, as my queen, as my partner, as the woman I love. The hall erupted in whispers. Is that a proposal? Sira asked quietly, smiling despite herself. It is a question, he replied. One I will keep asking until you are ready to answer. She looked at him. This man who had been her enemy, then her ally, then something more. This man who had made terrible choices and was working every day to become better. This man who loved her brother like his own and looked at her like she was the most precious thing in the world. Yes, she said. I will be your queen. I will stand beside you. I will help you rebuild. Joy transformed his face. He pulled her into his arms and kissed her in front of the entire kingdom. The hall exploded into cheers. When they finally broke apart, Bram had somehow escaped his minders and was tugging at Sira's gown. Does this mean I am a prince now? He demanded. Sira laughed, the sound bright and free. I suppose it does. Bram pumped his fist. Excellent. I am going to need more chickens. Torvin crouched to his level, expression grave. That can be arranged, Prince Bram. Bram threw his arms around Torvin's neck. Torvin caught him easily, lifting him up, and for a moment all three of them stood together in the golden light of the great hall. A family, improbable and imperfect and entirely real. Sira looked out at the crowd. Nobles and commoners, soldiers and refugees, all gathered to witness this moment. She thought about everything that had brought her here, the war, the loss, the cellar, the year of hiding, the choice to return. She was no longer the woman who had been given the lowest room. She was the woman who would stand beside the king. She was finally home.